Right. Hello, Jose. Tell people about the plot of your film, Young Werther.
Oh, absolutely. Young Werther, it's an adaptation of the hit 1774 novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther, which is about a young guy and a young girl who fall in love, but she's engaged to an older man. But instead of it being this antagonistic love triangle, they all become like weird best friends and navigate the complexities of unrequited love and affection and friendship. And yeah, in the book, it's a tragedy. In our film, it's more of a romance.
Wow, okay. And how did you stumble upon this text?
I was made to read this book in university. I'd not heard of it before, but I took this class and it was assigned to us. It was one of however many books we read that semester. And, I liked it just fine, wrote my paper on it and stuck it back on the shelf. And then about 10 years later, I pulled it back down off the shelf and yeah, reread it. And it hit differently. It was, I think like the characters and the themes of the book just resonated with me in a way that just it made me unable to stop thinking about why there wasn't a major English language adaptation of the story because it had been adapted so many times into European films and plays, operas, mangas, all these different versions of Werther. And yeah, I just got to thinking about what these characters would look like and sound like and feel like transposed to a contemporary setting.
What do you think is the best thing about Goethe? Tell me about your relationship with Goethe.
Oh, I mean, I wish I had it. It's funny on IMDb. If you click on the film's page, it says directed by José Lourenço, written by José Lourenço and Goethe. I was like, oh,
Nice.
that feels like a stretch. That I am Goethe's co-writer. Much in no, not even. I was gonna be like, I'm not in Goethe's league. I'm not even in like if Goethe's league is the NHL, I'm not in the AHL. I'm not in the OHL. I'm not in Pee Wee. I don't know what hockey league like Timbits. I'm playing Timbits hockey compared to Goethe when it comes to writing. I mean, I think like many people, I'm just a person living so many years after he lived who marvels at not just his writing and the works he created. Swords of Young Werther, of course, and Faust, and he was a statesman. He was a scientist. He lived one of these like autodidact lives that's just so incredibly impressive. There's a story, and I don't know if this is apocryphal, that he is the reason why Christmas trees are brought inside and decorated the way we are. He explored color theory. I mean, I think as an individual, it just I don't know. He seems like just this incredibly impressive person who I don't know. Could anyone be a Goethe today? I don't know. Who is it? Maybe no, actually no. I got no one. I have no comparisons. Singular is Goethe.
Have you seen his statue in Berlin?
I have not. I wasn't there for the when Johar and Douglas Booth went to Berlin for the end credits of the film. I sadly was in the editing booth and could not be there for those images.
That's too bad. One day,
Yeah,
though, it's gonna happen. You'll have a
it's gonna
project
happen.
at the
It's
Berlin
gonna happen.
Alley, and you're gonna see
I love it. I love that. From
it.
from your lips to the Berlin Alley's ears. Yeah,
Let's make it happen. Okay.
yeah.
You mentioned some of your actors right there. Tell people about your principal cast and were they fun to work with?
Oh my God. I don't know if I've ever had as much fun in my life as working on this film. Like it, the crew, all the keys, the department heads, everyone was amazing. And the cast, like, you know, this is the first feature I've directed, and so many people I know who have worked in film were trying to telling me to gird myself for difficult times with actors. And people would whisper like, oh, actors, like, look out, you have to deal with the actors. And my experience could not have been more opposite to the spirit of those warnings. I mean, Douglas Booth is one of the warmest, most charismatic, most endearing people, not just actors, people I've ever met. He's so welcoming. He makes everyone around him feel important. He's yeah, just a lovely human being, as is Alison Pill, one of the funniest people you could. Alison Pill and Patrick Adams and Amrit Kaur are all so funny. Like off camera and behind the scenes, like all of them can make me laugh in a way that very few people can. Allison is just so well read and so smart and so witty. Patrick J. Adams and Umrit are both so quick, like conversationally so quick. I mean, Patrick, people know him from Suits primarily, and you would see his character being quite quippy and witty, but yeah, Patrick the man is that and so much more. Yeah, so much fun. And then I can't say enough about young Johar Ben Aid, who plays Paul in the film. One of the gentlest, sweetest, kindest people I've ever met, and an incredible talent. And he's just in, I when we were premiering at TIFF, I was like, Johar, can you be here? And he's like, oh, sadly, I'm on another job right now. And I had to coax it out of him what he's doing. He's like, oh, well, tomorrow I'm playing opposite Anthony Hopkins in this scene. And I was like, oh, no big deal, just Anthony Hopkins and Johar. Like, I get it, I get it. And Iris Apatow, of course, as well. So funny and so smart and so sweet to everyone around her. It was a joy working with these actors.
I love it. And one thing else I really appreciated about your movie is we know it's in Canada. A lot of movies
Yes,
will shoot in Canada, but we're in Chicago or whatever. But we
yes.
know we hear Toronto, we hear Montreal. The words are uttered. So why did you want to do that? Were you ever tempted to set this in America?
I mean, there were many different versions. I wrote this script 12 years ago, and there's so many different iterations of it. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said there weren't times where, a studio or a streamer or financier was like, "What about New York? What about Chicago?" And, we'd have these conversations, but I'm so happy that the version of the film that we brought to life with Wildling Pictures here in Toronto, with the support of Telefilm and Ontario Creates, and so many wonderful funding bodies, and then our Gap financiers and everyone. Got behind the idea of setting the film in Toronto and having Toronto play itself because it is this wonderful, incredible city that sorry, my 7-year-old who's homesick today is grabbing my hand. What is it, my love? See if you can find little Nanny and ask her, okay? Okay.
That's okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. Talk about the sweetest, this little girl.
Yeah.
Um, sorry. Yeah, Toronto. I was always excited to have the film set here because, this is my adopted city. I love this city. I think it's beautiful and romantic, and some of the most incredible times of my life have been in my 20s and 30s here, running around this city with friends and romantic partners and colleagues and just yeah, having the best times. Like I don't know that I've ever shot fireworks off underneath the Gardner at Fort York, but what a thrill to be able to light up the city like that and not have to hide that, in the deep background the CN Tower's there, or to be able to have a beautiful afternoon moment in front of Roy Thompson Hall, or see a wedding, an impromptu wedding take place outside Restaurant 20 Victoria, one of the most beautiful restaurants in the country, a favorite of Meryl Streep's, and just a wonderful, wonderful place. If you can get a reservation, go eat at 20 Victoria. It's just outstanding. Yeah.
Oh, so you mentioned that this premiered at TIFF. Well, tell people a little bit what that's like. What's it like to have your film premiere at TIFF?
I mean, I've been going to the Toronto International Film Festival as an audience member for 20 years since I moved to the city. It's one of my favorite things about Toronto is when TIFF rolls around every year. And, I always say, the previous year when I was going to TIFF, I saw the films The Holdovers and Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest in the special presentations program of the festival. And when I learned that we were accepted into TIFF and they had programmed us in the special presentation section, I was blown away. I was like, what a, you make a movie and you kind of hope for the best. I could have never foreseen something so momentous. Really, for me, it was the most unbelievable feeling. And then because it is, my adopted hometown, my family is here. My wife is here, my brother and his husband, and my mom and dad, and we all got to go to the premiere together. And it was the first time my mom and dad saw the film. So, it's one thing to be in the theater and have such a lovely response from the audience, and another to have your mom right there grabbing your hand every few minutes and telling you it's the most wonderful night of her life. Second only to your wedding, but even then, this is maybe better than your wedding. It was incredible. What a thing.
Ah, that's beautiful. But to put industry stuff aside for a moment, what's your advice to people who want to enter someone else's relationship?
Um, uh, do so with great care. I think that I think what's interesting about the way that Werther enters their lives is that I mean, maybe the way in which it plays out is an uncommon thing, but I think it is quite a common thing for, um, when you're making friends or you're sussing out a potential relationship or whatever, it's rarely this like clean, easy thing, Like, I don't know how many friends, this was not my situation with my wife, but I don't know how many friends I have who, they're in these amazing relationships and, those relationships sometimes started in ways that are like, maybe not that palatable if you describe them out loud. Like they're not always the cleanest entry points, but I think we're all just human beings in the world trying to fumble our way through and connect with people and try to be a good person. And no one's a pure monster, no one's a pure hero. That's what I always loved about the book, and that's what I hope is one of the things people take away from the film.
Love, yes. Do you have a favorite line of dialogue from your film?
Oh, that's a good question. What would be one of the favorites? Uh, I don't know why this is popping into my head right now. But I really love Doug's delivery, the Werther line when he's sort of at his lowest point because Charlotte and Albert have just married and it feels like it's hopeless. And he gets it in his head that the reason why she has married Albert and not Werther is because he is not employed. And he has this revelation and he looks at Paul. And I just love the way Doug delivers line when he goes, "What if I got a job?" It's just it's like it's never occurred to this moneyed, entitled young man who I don't know has ever encountered many obstacles in his life, has encountered an obstacle that really is making him grow and change in the pursuit of this relationship. And it's just there's something so I don't know, just childlike and wondrous and yeah, it's like he's the first person who's ever thought of working ever, and which is despicable and hilarious all at once.
Absolutely. So tell me about your writing process. How many drafts do you go through? What's like if someone's gonna tackle a script, what's like a good length for a session? Do yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's a good question. I find it depends on what I'm writing. I mean, with Werther, I read and reread the book over and over and over again, and just annotated pages, and I had a notebook and was sort of coming up with ideas for scenes, and really I filled that notebook almost with an entirely alternate version of the book ultimately, and then it was like that document that I then took and turned into an extended story treatment, and then broke that down into scenes and then wrote the first draft from that. And it came pretty quickly. It was not all scripts do. There's a script that I wrote a few years ago that took me almost an entire year, and it just kind of because it was very research heavy, and it's uh, you know, I guess the process. What's a good day? It's tricky. I feel like until the treatment, like the actual story treatment, and figuring out basically the A to Z of everything and all the characters and what their sort of motivations and arcs are and how they intertwine and dovetail with the themes of the story. And then I'll produce a document that's usually 20 to 30 pages, and that can take me anywhere from as quick as 2 weeks to like as long as maybe 3, 4 months, depending on the complexity. And but then once I'm at that point, the writing generally goes pretty quickly, and I'm always aiming for 5 to 10 pages a day. That feels like a good amount for like a full writing day if I have a full writing day available to me, which now that I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old is more infrequent. But yeah, full writing day for a first draft, 5 to 10 pages, and then I'm uh excuse me, a bit of a perfectionist as I'm going along. So the first draft ends up looking pretty clean, but then it only looks clean. It needs to be revised over and over again. And for Werther, I mean, because there were so many iterations of the script and so many different versions being set up, I don't know, probably 15 drafts over the years. And again, that sounds extreme, but they weren't always, or they were rarely a massive structural rewrite. Generally, there were, shaping character or trimming, finding new ways to express things and just responding to different notes from different producers or actors or yeah. But once we had the script was the script, and I think it made the editing process a lot smoother too. We weren't really trying to find the story or find the flow of it too much in the edit because it was in the end, with the input of so many people and so much time, pretty tightly written.
Okay, very nice. And is there like a story structure book that you go to or that you can recommend to people?
I feel like my number one recommendation is, or my only recommendation really, is just read as many screenplays as possible. Read books, but just read screenplays. I think there are like principles you can absolutely pick up from screenwriting books, and over the years, I've probably read like anyone you've ever heard of. I've read. I mean, I feel like a classic is the William Goldman. Oh God, what is the Adventures in Screenwriting? The screenwriter of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and it's more of it's a book full of like anecdotes and dishing about Hollywood more in the 70s and 80s, but useful stuff in there. But yeah, it really is just like find the films you like. There are resources online that archive screenplays and read those over and over and over and just absorb the cadences, the structure, the format, and yeah, it's just read a lot and write a lot and know that whatever you write is going to change. It's going to improve. It's going to get worse sometimes, and there's no magic formula. It's just actually, you know what? There is one book I will recommend. It's the not Kenzaburo Oe. Oh God, it's the What I Think About When I Think About Running book by oh my God, the wonderful Japanese novelist. But the essence of that book is the idea of inspiration and flow state. Those are nice, but really it's about sitting down every day at the desk. If you're there for 8 hours and you don't write a single word, too bad. Just you got to be there 8 hours, put in the time, and some days it's going to come easily, some days it won't. It's just consistency and keeping at it. Yeah.
That's good stuff. And if you were going to program, let's say you're a cinema owner and you're doing a double bill with your film and
Oh,
another Goethe adaptation,
oh,
what are you picking?
oh, I love this. Another Goethe adaptation. I mean, it's got to be Faust, and I want to see like a
But by who?
this is key. I'm now thinking. I'm like I want to see Faust as interpret. I want to see Mike Nichols' Faust. That's what I want to
Okay.
see.
All
I
right.
want to
Okay.
see. I want to see a real a character driven, underplayed, smart, witty, beautifully framed, impeccably scored Faust by Mike Nichols. That's what I want to see.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there a final thought you'd like to end this interview with?
Oh, just that this has been lovely, and thank you so much. This is yeah, thank you for the thoughtful questions and the energy has been a treat.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.